What if the person who gave you life wasn't the one who raised you? What if the arms that held you, comforted you, and called you my son belonged to a woman from a country you weren't even born in? This is the story of Christian Taylor, an American boy who was abandoned as a baby and saved by the love of a Vietnamese woman who chose him as her own. A boy who grew up between two worlds, America and Vietnam, only to discover that home isn't where you're born. It's where someone chooses to love you. The boy who was left behind. Christian Taylor came into this world in the spring of 1999 in a quiet town in the United States. He was just 1 month old when his parents, caught in a failing marriage, made a decision that would change his life forever. They left. There were no goodbyes, no explanations, only a fragile baby placed into the hands of Christian's uncle and his new Vietnamese wife, Huong, who had just gotten married 2 months earlier. Imagine that for a moment. A woman in a foreign country, newlywed, barely beginning her own life, suddenly handed a baby who wasn't hers. But the moment Huong held the child, something in her heart shifted. She looked at his tiny face, his helpless eyes, and she didn't see someone else's son. She saw her own. From that day, Christian recalls, she became my mother. Not by blood, but by love. The kind of love that doesn't ask for anything in return. Life in the Taylor household wasn't wealthy or easy, but it was filled with warmth. 2 years later, Huang gave birth to a daughter, a bright, spirited little girl they called Rong. To the world, Christian and Rong were siblings. To their mother, there was no difference. She cooked for both, sang to both, and when Christian scraped his knees or got into trouble, she scolded him the same way she would her own daughter, out of love, not obligation. I never felt like an outsider, Christian says softly, not once. But every story of love comes with a moment of truth, and for Christian, that moment arrived when he turned 8. That day, his parents sat him down. His father's voice trembled. His mother held his hand tightly. They told him the truth, that the people who gave him life were not the same people who raised him. He remembers feeling the room go silent. His heart pounded. He was angry, confused. For days he avoided looking at his mother, the woman who had always been his whole world. Then one night, she walked into his room, knelt beside his bed and whispered, "You are my son. The way you came to me is just a little different, but you are my child, just like Rong." Nothing changes that in that moment everything inside him broke and healed, all at once. That night, Christian says, I understood what being a parent truly means. Anyone can bring a child into this world, but not everyone can choose to love one. And from then on, he made a silent promise that he would make his mother proud. The Vietnamese heart inside an American boy. Growing up in Huong's home was like living between two worlds. The outside world was American, English, baseball, school lunches, but inside their little house, it was Vietnam. There was the soft melody of Vietnamese lullabies that Huong sang before bed. There were the scents of pumpkin soup, braised pork and egg, and stuffed bitter melon wafting through the kitchen each morning. And every night before dinner, Huang would light a small incense stick on the family altar, bowing to her ancestors, whispering prayers for the people she loved. Christian didn't understand all of it at first, but little by little, the culture seeped into him, not as a lesson, but as a rhythm of life. My mom taught me how to say "Chao Ko," "Chao Bak," and how to show respect to elders, he recalls. She taught me how to cook Vietnamese dishes, how to set the table for Tet, how to honor the people who came before us. He began to see Vietnam not as a place on a map, but as something alive inside him. Even in school, when his classmates opened their sandwiches and chips, Christian would open his lunchbox to find rice, vegetables, and a little bowl of soup carefully packed by his mom. At first, he felt shy, until his friends started asking to taste his food. Before long, everyone wanted a bite of Christian's mom's cooking. Those small moments became memories, pieces of his identity that no one could take away. Our home in America was filled with Vietnamese stories, language, and laughter, Christian says. I didn't realize it then, but my mother was quietly building a bridge between who I was and who I could become. And when he turned 18, that bridge called him home. He decided not to go straight to college. Instead, he packed his bags and flew across the world to Vietnam. His friends thought he was crazy, but Christian knew deep down that he was finally going to see the place that had raised his heart. He arrived in Ho Chi Minh City, humid, noisy, alive, and something inside him felt strangely familiar. The smells, the sounds, the people. It was as if he had been here before, in another life. He spent 2 years working as a volunteer, teaching English at a church and helping with community projects. Every day he walked through narrow alleys filled with laughter, shared meals with locals who treated him like family, and slowly, Vietnam became more than a destination. It became home. "I came here to give," he says, "but Vietnam gave me more than I could ever offer. It taught me humility, gratitude, and what it truly means to belong." Love finds its way home. Fate wasn't done with Christian yet, because somewhere in that same city, Ho Chi Minh City, a young woman named Quoc Thi Mai was living her own quiet life. They met through a volunteer program, an ordinary day that turned extraordinary. Mai was gentle yet strong, with a warm smile that reminded Christian of his mother. They spent hours after class talking about food, family, and what it meant to grow up between two worlds. Friendship became something deeper, quiet at first, then undeniable. And by the time Christian's 2-year volunteer term ended, he knew he didn't want to leave her behind, but he had to. In September 2019, he flew back to the US, promising he would return. What followed were years of long-distance love, calls that stretched late into the night, birthdays celebrated through a screen, and countless prayers that love would be enough. "She was my anchor," Christian says. "Even from thousands of miles away, she kept me grounded, reminding me who I was and where I belonged." Driven by that love, he poured himself into his studies, majoring in computer science, determined to build a future solid enough to bring him back to Vietnam. 3 years later, in November 2022, he did just that. When Mai came to meet him at the airport, she had no idea what was coming. Right there, among the crowd, Christian got down on one knee and pulled out a ring he'd carried halfway across the world. She burst into tears and said yes. The next day, they registered their marriage. No grand ceremony, no audience, just two souls who had waited long enough. A year later, their first son was born. As Christian held the tiny boy in his arms, his heart flooded with memories. His mother's hands, her voice, her patience. In that moment, he said, "I finally understood her love, the kind that builds you, protects you, and asks for nothing back." Now, Christian and Mai live a quiet, happy life in Ho Chi Minh City. He teaches English, studies for his master's in cybersecurity, and every evening after work, he returns home to the laughter of his wife and the cries of his baby boy. And sometimes, when the night is still, he hums the same Vietnamese lullaby his mother used to sing. Only now, he sings it for his son. Love without borders. When people ask Christian where he's from, he pauses. Because how do you answer a question like that when your life belongs to two worlds? "I'm American by birth," he says, "but my heart is Vietnamese." His story isn't just about adoption or chance, it's about choice. A choice made by a woman who decided that love could cross oceans and bloodlines. A choice made by a son who decided to carry that love forward from one generation to the next. In a way, Christian's life completes a circle. He was once a baby who needed saving. Now, he is a father, raising his own child in the same culture that raised him, teaching him Vietnamese words, cooking his mother's dishes, passing on the very love that saved him. Sometimes he calls his mom back in America. They talk about his life in Vietnam, about Mai, about the baby. And every time his mother ends the call with the same words, "My son, I'm so proud of you." Christian always smiles because he knows no matter where he goes, that love will always be his compass. This story is a reminder that family isn't defined by DNA. It's defined by the hands that lift you when you fall, by the voice that tells you you are loved, even when the world forgets you. So tonight, if you're listening to this story, maybe it's time to call someone who once chose you, stood by you, or raised you. Because sometimes the greatest love stories aren't written in romance novels. They're written in the quiet devotion of a mother who chooses to love a child as her own. Christian Taylor's life began with abandonment, but it grew into something far greater, a story of redemption, gratitude, and boundless love. Because in the end, home isn't a place. Home is someone who says, "You are mine."